My guest today has spent his whole career building technology that tries to bring people closer together. He led personalization at Spotify. He ran calling and messaging at Amazon Alexa. He built products in behavioral health, in addiction recovery, and pediatric care. He founded a company called Bloom, backed by Google Ventures, that try to help families stay connected to their aging parents. So when he talks about technology and older people, he is not guessing. He has built it, shipped it, and watched it succeed and fail in the real world. His name is Keith Kocho. You mentioned that interdependence is not a weakness, and so much of technology is built to reduce reliance on others rather than support it. What do you mean?
Well, I'd go further than say it's purely a technology issue. It's societal and fairly broad, right? We have set goals that frame things around independence. There's been a lot written about this, not the least of which are, bowling alone. That there's a lot of evidence about loneliness and isolation impacting us broadly. I think there's a reason for that, right? We've set goals from very early stages in the lives of people and in the shaping of society that really triumphs the idea that people achieve things independently and that independence is the ultimate goal. I think if you step back, as we know, we're social creatures. We need each other. And we, I think, do and perform much better when we lean into that construct of working with other people. Technology has gone a long way to increasing this sense of isolation. And in fact, I'd argue, looking at what we're currently experiencing with the acceleration of AI tooling, is increasing the challenge in the space. It makes it easier to develop things on your own and harder to slow down to the pace of working with other humans and truly collaborate with them.
I think I could probably relate. And I've only ever seen the upside of that, not being slowed down by others. But at the same time, the way you frame it makes just as much sense. So this show is about aging and growing at the same time. And a lot of it is coordinations, coordinating families around an aging relative. And your experience at Bloom, what have you learned from it? And what would you do differently now?
It's an excellent question. The answer is simple and complicated at the same time. The easy answer to your question is that I underestimated, despite warning at the beginning from a trusted advisor, that family dynamics, and in fact, just in general, human relationships are really complicated. And it's very enticing, the idea that you can use sophisticated technology and design to try to bridge gaps and challenges in complicated human relationships. But again, the reality of it is not so simple. So I jumped into the idea of Bloom for the same reason that so many of us do, try to use technology and other elements of design and systems work to bridge gaps between people and address social isolation among the elderly. But what I underestimated, and there was no way I could have seen it unless I, had done what I did, like go through the experience, as is often the saying, right? The only way out is through. And so you recognize when you're attempting to put technology in place to help people connect with each other, that you also have to understand that there are situations in which just candidly, they don't want to connect. Maybe it's time, place. Maybe there's a lot of scar tissue and history and complexity and interpersonal relationships with siblings and so on that you just can't understand. Designing technology to achieve that purpose of helping families to connect and support each other, it can do very little, honestly, to address the differences in perspective and goals that those stakeholders have. So, for example, it's generally true, I would think, that as we age, we're not really willing or interested in accepting the idea of frailty and dependence on other people until we've reached a point of no return. It's just natural with people. Nobody wants to have their car keys taken away from them. They want to maintain in their own mind that they have all the agency they ever did when they were younger. That tension is straight at odds with the care and consideration and intent of other family members who openly see decline in various ways that's happening. And their instinct is to protect and to lean in, help. And the words we hear in technology that become challenging to the folks on the receiving end are words like monitoring and taking care of. These things don't generally land well with an individual who still believes they have a lot of life in them. And that inherently is sort of the challenge of building products and solutions in this space. How do you understand and respond to the subtleties and histories and tensions that are present in every human relationship?
And do you see that as a sort of eternal conflict between what the user wants and what the deck speak wants, let's say? Or is there a way to bridge it or overcome it?
Yes, I think there are definitely ways to bridge and overcome it with time. And I think that's the challenge that a lot of products in the space are stuck with. These are long cycles of learning, which is true in any of these human-centered type of worlds. Flies in the face of most of what, venture capital, high growth, right, type businesses want to see. And it also flies in the face of traditional product thinking, right? Which these days is mostly, I don't mean exclusively, but is a lot about A/B testing. Try this, do that. These sorts of problems take a while to steep. You need to have technology in place that learns about someone's environment and the challenges that they experience and the nature of those interpersonal dynamics. That also gets you into territory that can cross some really interesting and challenging boundaries for people. So if you have technology that is in fact engaging with a person and listening and learning, it's participating in the rhythm of their life and the secrets and the challenges. It needs to do that in order to add value. But in so doing, it's also crossing the trust barrier for other people who are trying to help. And that's a place we're not used to technology living. I heard a really great piece just this past week on the Daily about a company that I know well. I know the CEO, Dor, of Intuition Robotics, had built this product that supports families and aging in this space. And the New York Times did a piece on it, and it was really compelling. And it talked about how the product is remarkable for this elderly woman who's using it, who lives in an isolated environment on her own. It's ambient and it listens and it does a lot of things to provide her companionship that she can't otherwise get. But it also just inevitably crosses over some boundaries between her and other family members in its well-intentioned design to support her. So it's a tricky space. I think it's one that has to figure out how to balance these two human challenges that we see, right? One of them is the reality that for a lot of people, they are alone as they age. They spend a lot of time alone, and try as we might and as we desire, we, perhaps the younger people, sandwich parents, grandchildren, et cetera, are not close enough or have the time to deeply invest to enrich their lives the way we'd like to. So technology can and should play a role there if it's designed well. And then the other one is this desire that I've tried to anchor the last, few chapters, I guess, of my career on, which is having technology serve the purpose of bringing people together, acting as scaffolding and supporting infrastructure that provides context and meaning and tooling to help us connect. There's no shortage of people, both old and young, who have time that they could invest in enriching the lives of others. And we're good at it when we get over that initial barrier of feeling like, well, I don't know what to say, or I don't know who this person is, or I don't have time, or something else. It's natural. We know how it feels to receive that, right? It's something as simple as you walk down the street and you give somebody a smile and a greeting versus just walking right past them. You know how that energy feels. And so I think leaning into that and having technology be designed specifically to facilitate those sorts of moments and to go much further is a great goal for this world. That's what I'm trying to do. It's I don't want to say it's necessarily more complicated. I think it is, but it's a different design principle than a service or an entity on its own tries to deliver everything. And I think again, in that sense, it's a different goal.
Voice and conversational AI, specifically for older adults. Why is it an important method, or how would you even phrase it? What is the role that it should take?
Yes, there is a tremendous body of science and literature in this area that clearly demonstrates, not just for the elderly, but for people in general. I've also, worked in addiction and recovery and a bunch of other areas in behavioral health, including pediatrics. And, what you see is a fairly universal situation in which people are really willing to engage with a chatbot, an entity that they can talk to who will speak to them without judgment. And that, in a lot of ways, is really powerful because humans, we hear the term all the time, you got to get your game face on. And we all know people who are fairly challenged with just reacting to things have poor conversation skills. My wife reminds me of this all the time, that I certainly wasn't raised in an environment where people asked questions. They just reflected. And so that's what I used to do. I probably still do too much. But the idea that a conversational AI entity can listen without judgment and provide support is very powerful. It's also something that's available whenever you want it. Now, that's a double-edged sword, right? Given my earlier comments about wanting to connect with people, I think we have to find the right balance where these tools don't simply further isolation by keeping people out of the real world and spending more time with the tools versus talking to real people. But there's definitely a lot of power in the idea of being able to speak to something that can help you think through issues that you're grappling with and remind you about things in a proactive way and be present for you in places where it's simply just not practical for people to be all the time.